The crunch of gravel under Leo's boots was the only sound in the moonlit park. It was a stupid shortcut, one his wife had begged him not to take, but the law of shaving 20 minutes off his walk home from the late shift was too strong. Now, he felt the foolish weight of that decision. Then, another crunch echoed his own. Not an echo. A replication. A half-beat behind. He froze, his hand tightening on the strap of his laptop bag. The sound behind him stopped with perfect, impossible symmetry. Heart hammering, he turned. 50 yards back, beneath the skeletal branches of an oak, a man stood motionless. He was tall and unnaturally thin, swallowed by a dark coat that seemed to absorb the moonlight. His face was pale, a stark oval in the gloom. And he was smiling. It wasn't a friendly smile, or a crazy one. It was a wide, plastic stretch of the lips, utterly vacant, like a mask that had been pulled too tight. Leo's breath hitched. Just a weirdo. Keep walking. Don't run. He turned and quickened his pace, his ears straining. Crunch. Crunch. His own steps. Crunch. Crunch, their steps. He dared another glance. The man was closer now. 40 yards. Still smiling. Still staring with eyes that were just dark pits from this distance. Leo's walk became a brisk march. The exit of the park was still a 5-minute walk away. The footsteps behind him matched his new tempo exactly, the gap between each step perfectly synced to his own. A cold sweat beaded on his temple. This was wrong. Deeply wrong. He stopped abruptly, pretending to tie his shoe. The footsteps behind him cut off instantly. He looked back. The man had also stopped. He was bent over slightly, one hand hovering near his shoe, his head cocked at the same angle as Leo's. The smile never wavered. He was 20 yards away now. Leo could see his eyes more clearly. They were wide open, unblinking, and reflected the moon like still, black water. Panic, hot and sharp, shot through him. Leo broke into a run. The sound that followed was not a run. It was the precise, mirror image echo of his run. The same frantic rhythm of footfalls, the same jarring impact on the gravel. He didn't need to look back. He could feel the thing there, matching him stride for stride, its relentless smile aimed at his back. He burst out of the park gate, and onto the deserted residential street, fumbling for his keys. His house was only 3 down. He sprinted for his door, the mimicking footsteps right behind him. He didn't hear breathing, just the exact copy of his own frantic gasps. He jammed the key into the lock, threw the door open, and slammed it shut, throwing the deadbolt. He leaned against the wood, chest heaving, dripping with sweat. Silence. Blessed, beautiful silence. Trembling, he crept to the peephole and looked out. The street was empty. A sob of relief escaped him. He stumbled into his living room, collapsing into an armchair. He'd done it. He was safe. The clock on the wall read 2:17 a.m. Then, a movement caught his eye. Through the large bay window, he saw him. The man stood on the sidewalk directly in front of his house. He wasn't looking at the door. He was staring directly at the window. At Leo. And he was perfectly still, except for that fixed, horrific smile. Leo screamed for his wife to call the police. He ran to the window and yanked the curtains shut. But he could still feel it. The smile, piercing through the fabric. The police came. They were polite, skeptical. They found no one. They walked the block, shined their lights into shadows, and left with a warning about overactive imaginations and late-night stress. As their cruiser pulled away, Leo watched from the window. The moment the tail lights vanished, the man stepped out from behind the large maple tree in his neighbor's yard. He hadn't left. He'd just been mimicking the tree's stillness. He resumed his position on the sidewalk. Smiling, Leo tried everything. He turned off all the lights. The man remained, a pale smudge in the darkness. He called a friend to come over. When the friend's car pulled up, the man mimicked the car's stillness, standing as rigid and silent as a vehicle until the friend was inside. He explained the situation, his voice a hysterical rasp. His friend looked out the window, paled, and left quickly, muttering about a bad trip. The night stretched on, an eternity of terror. Every time Leo looked, the man was there. If Leo sat, the man would slowly sink to the ground, cross-legged, mirroring his posture. If Leo drank a glass of water, the man would pantomime raising an invisible glass to his lips. If Leo paced, the man paced the same stretch of sidewalk, his steps in perfect time. He was a puppet. A reflection in a smiling, soulless mirror. The worst was the blinking. Leo realized, with dawning horror. The worst was the blinking. Leo realized, with dawning horror, that the man only blinked when he did. A perfect, synchronous flutter of those dark, vacant eyes. The night was a cage. Dawn was the only promised release. Leo watched the clock, each minute an hour. 4 a.m. 4:30, 5 o'clock. The sky began to lighten from black to a deep, bruised purple. He was exhausted, broken by the relentless surveillance. He sat on the floor, knees to his chest, and stared out at the thing. It sat too, knees to its chest, its head tilted at the same despairing angle. The first ray of the sun, a brilliant sliver of gold, crested the rooftops across the street. Leo looked up. The man looked up. The sunlight touched the man's face. And the smile vanished. It didn't fade. It didn't relax. It was just gone, erased as if it had never been there. The man's face was now neutral, blank, utterly ordinary. He looked like any other tired man sitting on a sidewalk at dawn. He slowly, stiffly, uncrossed his legs and stood up. He didn't look at Leo. He simply turned and began to walk down the street, his footsteps making soft, normal sounds on the pavement. Leo remained on the floor, trembling, as the sun filled the room. The horror was over. But it had been replaced by something worse, a deep, unshakable certainty. It wasn't about what had happened. It was about the pattern. The mimicry. The waiting. It was about the coming night. He crawled to the window and watched the figure until it turned a corner and disappeared. The man was gone. But Leo knew, as surely as he knew the sun would set again, that the smile was not gone forever. It was just waiting for the dark. And it knew exactly where he lived.